Hi there YouTube, Mark today here with a question video and video response, and the question in question is, actually it has been asked by a fellow over there, Lone Boys Post 1975, Dave. Do you remember your first time in a video game store? Which actually might even be some sort of a sordid, dirty question to the adult mind, but yeah. The way I'm going to answer it is that I am going to describe the first toy store that I actually remember, and then my first video game experience thingy that made me realize that there was something else besides Monopoly and all sorts of board games. So yeah, let's get rid of Dave. Sorry, Dave. Alphen, which is a very small town in the Netherlands, and there used to be a toy store at the Thorbeckehof, Thorbeckestraat. This is Intertoys. It used to be a Peter van der Pannen or something. It used to look a bit different, but this is actually the spot where I first encountered my first in this building, or a building close to, well, on this spot, different building, maybe a similar building with little balconies on top, that was the same, but I don't think it was the Intertoys. But on that spot was a toy store, which seemed enormous to my little beady eyes. And I remember being amazed by all the colors. Of course, I was very much into marbles, slime, Game & Watches, and that kind of stuff. That was all there. And there were actually two systems that really caught my eye, actually two games that really caught my eye, that really amazed me. And yeah, let me show you what that was. And that was actually this. I borrowed this from this picture from a collector. I saw this demo stand with this system in it, the Vectrex, and this system totally amazed me. I must have had some exposure to the Atari 2600 and the Philips Videopac, but this system and the graphical quality of this system, I think there's a Mindstorm. This is the built-in game. And they had the little sheets in front of the screen, but yeah, this stand, I actually remember this stand, and I remember the position in the store where it was, and what was running on there was actually this game, Scramble, and it just looked like no other game ever did before, with the fine lines and the fluid motion, and yeah, I just thought it was out of this world, and out of this world expensive, actually, because my mom told me that it was like super expensive, and I think it was 299 guilders or something, and it just did not compare to the other systems out there. So the Vectrex really was one of the first video game systems, consoles, that truly amazed me, and at a young age I actually saw that this outclassed the Videopac. And there was this other game, and I think it was a ColecoVision, that was actually very close, sitting very close by, and the game running on there was Mousetrap. And I remember being quite amazed at the animations of the little mouse, mice and a cat, and all that was going. I mean, I obviously knew it was a Pac-Man type of game, but and the multi-level sound that came from the machine. So both systems, the Coleco and the Vectrex, really showed me an intriguing image of what video games could be like. And I actually reconciled myself with the fact that I just had to make do with my Game & Watches and my Videopac, and I was perfectly happy with it until quite a bit later. My mom actually bought a Commodore 64, which he intended to use for programming use only. That was until we snuck in a tape from a friend and a joystick from a friend and actually loaded in some arcade games. And I think we played Frogger, Scramble, and other stuff. And I remember being quite happy that I was able to play Scramble on the Commodore 64, but it did not look like the Vectrex counterpart. And I remember back in school, I only knew one kid, Marvin van der Water. He was sitting next to me in some of the classes. And he had a Vectrex, and he had quite a good number of games for it. And I think he was the only kid in school, actually, that I remember having a Vectrex. Perhaps Mr. Costardo knows about others, but we went to the same school. But yeah, I guess he was the kid, and the only kid that had a Vectrex. And well, I had to make do with with my Videopac, and later on my Commodore 64, which really was a very, very nice system. But the Vectrex and the ColecoVision both actually were, yeah, and Scramble. And I think Freedom Fighters on the Odyssey 2 or the Videopac. Freedom Fighters, if you don't know the game, I've actually made a video about that game. I'll put it down in the link below, a link to the video, or perhaps up here or whatever, and you'll see what I mean. But that was a shooter game, and maze game, single screen maze game, platform game, shooter games. Actually, I think my love for those genres actually stems from these old arcade games, you know, Donkey Kong, the platforming and jumping, Space Invaders, Galaxians, Galaga, Scramble, the scrolling, the horizontal scrolling. I actually prefer. I think I do prefer in a way. I prefer vertical shooters, Dodonpachi a bit more, but the horizontals, I'm not sure. I mean, it depends on the time of day, the time of the month. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, I think this pretty much solidified my my core gaming thing. We had the 8-bit racing games. I mean, I'm pretty much into 32-bit racing games, but back then, racing games were top-down, pretty limited. Super Sprint, Pool Position, good games. But I think with the 32-bit consoles, Gran Turismo. I think Gran Turismo and some of the earlier racers on the PC, I think that actually showed me the level of finesse at which racing games were possible on consoles. And yeah, I took the PC route for a long time, but yeah, the PlayStation made me revert back to consoles. So yeah, my first time in a toy store or in a video game store was actually noticing the Vectrex. That really stands out. I mean, I've been in the toy store before, but I've been there for Playmobil or Legos or you know what have you. Game & Watches. Yeah, I used to stare at the orange Donkey Kong. Never had an orange Donkey Kong. I only had a Lion Tamer thing. My sister had a very nice Casio shooting game, but I never had a Donkey Kong. Yeah, out of my reach. I think it was 80 guilders or something, or perhaps even 120 guilders back then, which was just an enormous amount of money, and I was just not getting that ever. As well as the Vectrex. I mean, just looking at the quality and the level of gameplay, I thought, you know, I'm just not ever going to own that. Beyond my reach, and not really thought much of it. And with the Commodore 64, that was actually very amazing. And the fact that I had a Videopac, I was very content with the system, and we actually upgraded it from the G7000 to the G7400, which is similar to the Odyssey 3 command module, and it featured enhanced graphics. Not many, most of the games only had enhanced backgrounds, but there were actually games that used high-resolution graphics, pretty similar to MSX graphics, ColecoVision graphics, but not many games actually use those. And yeah, so Coleco, Vectrex, those were the first, and in television, I saw it in television as well. And yeah, those were the systems, of course the Atari and the Odyssey, those were the systems that really pop out in my mind as the older systems, the old consoles that I used to play. And the thing is, what actually also intrigued me back then was the fact that ColecoVision games looked like very cool ports of arcade games. Later on, I came to play Donkey Kong in the Afifauna arcade in Alphen, and I noticed how similar the graphics were to that, the arcade cabinet and the ColecoVision. And the Coleco really had arcade perfect ports in my eyes back then. A tangent here. Oh yeah, you could actually look in Vectrex. I mean, Vectrex graphics are singular. They're Vectrex. They're the vectors. Although recent brewers have actually managed to make the system produce bitmapped graphics as well. So that's actually quite astonishing. But yeah, you would be able to identify the system a game was playing on just by looking at a screenshot or just by looking at what was going on and how it looked. And for some reason I always was amazed by how inconsistent the graphics qualities of the Atari 2600 games were. I mean, some games looked awesome. Pitfall, Hero, and some games look just so rudimentary. Probably it has to do with the fact that the system was a commercial success, or actually was being programmed for an enormous amount of time. So I guess that's the reason why the graphics between the cards actually looked so inconsistent. And the ColecoVision games always looked very, professionally, very solid, very slick, very smooth. Commodore 64, oh man, there's so many bad games, so many bad graphics for that system. Also, a long period of time where, basically very, the system was pretty unknown to a lot of the developers, I guess, and a lot of the early games looked like crap. It sounded like crap. And, the Vectrex actually had a very solid run of games, and I think yeah, I'm looking over there because my Odyssey 2 is stored over there, but I think the Odyssey 2, all the games, the Videopac, all the games were actually programmed by a single programmer, but he actually managed to produce a shitload of very cool, very playable games that look very rudimentary, but they had a very cool gameplay in essence, and I really like the system. So yeah, that actually answers the question, I guess. What was your first time in a video game store? Well, that was it. And later on, I used to go to the V&A and programming on the Commodore 64. Actually, I was able to program a lot of the systems. There was a Vectrex. No, there wasn't a Vectrex. There was a Spectrum, a Commodore 64, also an MSX system. They were on display. They had this demo cabinet, and I used to program in 4-line basic game, and I used to lock up the reset facilities of the Commodore 64, and over time I used to be able to program that little game out of my head. It was a listing in one of the video game magazines where a little snake, a scrolling screen where characters are printed on the screen, and you actually have to avoid the little characters by just tapping left or right on the keyboard. A very basic game that you would be able to program in 4 lines. And I would add sounds. I would add high score. I would enter. I would implement high score, even sounds. I would lock up the screen, flashing. It looked like a semi-professional game with basic pet ASCII characters. But yeah, I used to walk in and just key in a game and test it out, and then when it ran as I would like to, then I would just add a little poke in the first line, and it would lock up, and you would only be able to play the game. And the on-off switch was hidden, so they really had to dismantle the system to be able to, you know, to be able to reset it, or just, you know, power off the entire array, and they didn't. So, and most often they didn't notice it, and some people just, oh, cool game. Well, it was a crap game, but yeah. Okay, enough rambling. I'm going to shut up now and watch some belated YouTube videos, because I still have a crap load of videos to watch. I have a lot of channels that I subscribe to, and my subscription feed is totally broken. So I managed to create some lists, some sort of new thing that allows me to have subsets of channels that I really, I have a subset now that is entitled Must Watch. And in that little list, the new videos of all the people that I subscribe to that I want to watch actually show up. But the other, I mean, that is so broken, especially if you have a lot of channels that you are subscribed to. That's a shame. But I think I'm using YouTube in a way that most users aren't. You know, I'm actually subscribed to a shitload of channels. I don't watch all the videos, but I want to have at least some indication of the videos that they produce, and yeah, be able to select whether or not I want to watch them. But yeah, that's something that YouTube doesn't cater for that easily, I guess. So kind of a YouTube power user, I guess, or some sort of weird YouTube user. And yeah, okay. Well, Mark signing off. I've been talking way too long, and yeah, Scramble on the Vectrex. That was my first in the video game store. So yeah, there you have it.